You know, it's kind of hard to defend Ron when he's being such a dick. Happy Tuesday, Potterheads! Today we are talking about Chapter 14 of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, and we're going to talk mostly about the parenting that goes on in this chapter. But first, if you need to, go ahead and pause the video to read the recap in the description below, and if you're new here, welcome, thank you so much for joining us. If you like what I do, you can subscribe and ring the notification bell so that you always know when I upload, and if you need to catch up with any of the seasons, you can click the card in the top left right there. Before we jump into the main topic, which is going to be one big parenting section, let's talk about Ron. Why does he have to be like this? I'm such a fan of Ron. I definitely think he doesn't get enough credit from the fandom. Ron, in the books, is, in general, a thoughtful and attentive friend. He's empathetic, he's good at caring for people, and he's really not afraid to speak his mind. Which, I guess, is kind of the trait that gets him in trouble in this chapter. I mean, he doesn't really get in trouble in the context of the story, but he's in trouble with me. Ron is such an in this chapter. Okay, first of all, I don't blame him for liking the attention. You guys saw my most recent music video. His whole life, Ron has never felt like the one who gets any of attention, and now he's got so much of it coming his way, finally. And we all know that Gryffindors can be a bit, shall we say, obnoxious when we're the center of attention. I'd say on the whole, Gryffindors love to have eyes on them. But my boy lets it get to his head a little bit too much in this chapter. So much so that when people start to not care anymore, he gets a little upset about it. It's such a small moment, but when I read it this time, it's like, dude, get over it. Get your 15 seconds and get out. And when the boys visit Hagrid, a sage voice of wisdom that they usually listen to and take advice from keenly, Ron has the gall to be just like, nah, 13-year-old boys suck. I think we can just agree that that tends to be true. Having been one myself, I can confirm that 13-year-old boys in general are just hard to be around. Then Hermione makes a small effort to show that she still cares about them, and Ron pulls the biggest dick move he ever has. When he openly pretends not to hear Hermione, I get so mad! Here's the thing though, guys. Ron is just learning how to deal with conflict. He has to learn how to own up to his mistakes and to make them better. We'll see the result of that work in Book 7 when he abandons them and then immediately tries to make his way back. So boom, I knew there would be people saying that this was evidence against their relationship, so I was ready for it. I'm going to talk more about that next week. Okay, and now it's time for parenting with... Like I said, this is probably going to be the bulk of this week's content, so buckle in, all you non-parents. We see 3 distinct moments of trying to correct bad behavior in this chapter. 3 distinct moments of Harry and Ron being lectured by someone who could arguably be called a father figure. First by Hagrid, second by Snape, and then third by Lupin. The last 2 are really mostly Harry being lectured, but of course both of them are involved in all 3. And these 3 moments are really all distinguished from each other by the approach that all 3 of them take to try to correct the boys' behavior. I mean, Hagrid and Lupin aren't that different, but Lupin is a bit more savage, but effective. Okay, first we have Hagrid. Hagrid begins and spends most of the time trying to get the boys to empathize with Hermione and to see the truth that they aren't seeing. He tells them how Hermione is the only one helping with Buckbeak's case, how she has stretched herself way too thin at school, and how she is so beat up and crying all the time about the situation with Ron on top of it all. In doing so, Hagrid is kind of trying to get the boys to realize 2 things. First, that they need to think about other people complexly, and second, that they need to remember that their actions have consequences. He's trying first to get them to understand what Hermione is going through and to see the sacrifices that she is still making. He's kind of prying their eyes open and saying, look at what is actually happening to your friend. Then he kind of tries to guilt them about what they're doing to Hermione, saying that he would think that they'd value their friend over a rat and that people can be kind of crazy about their pets. And that's where I think he loses them a bit. He's trying to get them to give Hermione some slack and also trying to say to Ron, hey, dude, you're kind of doing the exact same thing as she is. But I think Hagrid kind of forgot that 13-year-old boys can be kind of thick sometimes. He also subtly compares their situation to how he's going to such lengths to protect Buckbeak, but all of that just kind of goes right over their head. I think Hagrid did an incredible job here, truly, but I think he just might have needed to get a little bit more down on the boys' level here. The end of his argument basically just goes right over Ron's head, especially Ron's, and so he just kind of loses them a bit. The next example we have of parenting is with Snape, and boy, oh boy, is this a bad example. To be fair, Snape is 100% accurate with what he accuses Harry of. I'm not claiming Snape is going to be falsely punishing Harry or whatever. Harry broke the rules and put himself in danger. But Snape's approach isn't so great. Snape here is accusatory without a ton of evidence, and he is trying to insult and hurt Harry. He's essentially trying to make Harry angry enough that he'll slip up and give Snape a reason to punish him. Snape is playing a game here. He's obviously trying to get some little joy out of this so he can finally feel like he bested James Potter. But the way he hurls insults, especially at Harry's dead father, is just cruel. This is a bit, like, borderline abusive, and it's certainly not going to do any good for Harry becoming a future rule follower. I mean, after all, isn't that why we discipline as parents, so our kids learn to follow the rules and keep themselves safe in the future? Like, I imagine Snape is also feeling a little bit like, F you, Harry, right now, because he promised to protect and defend Harry for his whole life, and Harry has decided to just go and gamble with his life. But as a parent, you can't really just go, like, lashing out at your kid in anger. Like, that's not really gonna work. And then Lupin comes in and continues to be the best character in the whole freaking book! Like, he has to say so little to Harry in order to get him to realize he has done something terribly wrong. All he has to do is say, I'm taking this map, I don't think you've done something very generous in light of your parents' sacrifice. And like I said, like, that's a bit savage. But I'll go back and reiterate that 13-year-old boys can be tough to deal with, and that's apparently the theme of this episode. So, sometimes you gotta be a little tough love with them. And Lupin probably feels like a representative of James here, so he knows he needs to teach him a lesson. As a parent, I super respect what Lupin has done here. Margot is around an age where putting her in timeout isn't always an effective method of discipline. So on those occasions, what we have to do is a little negative reinforcement and take away something that she likes. She sleeps with a little flamingo stuffed animal at night, and so if she isn't listening to me, isn't responding to timeout, or isn't going in timeout, I tell her that if she doesn't listen, I'm gonna have to take away Mingo for the night. Take me and substitute Lupin, take Margot and substitute Harry, and then take Mingo and substitute the map, and there you have my analogy. And then on top of that, he pulls the classic dad guilt trip. To me, the worst thing that my dad could have ever said to me, and thank goodness he didn't, was that he was disappointed in me. To me, that's worse than anger, that's worse than hurt, that's worse than sad. Like, that is soul level damage. And Lupin basically says, dude, I am so disappointed in you that you would risk your safety after my best friend died protecting you. Ouch! And that's all for Parenting With.
Because I have pajamas on.
So you can't say Harry Potter?
Yeah.
Okay guys, today's comment of the week goes to YouTube user Patricia Metz, who said this on my Dear Evan Hansen parody. You and Ron are both so much better than you think. Way to understand our mate, Ron. You made me hungry. Thank you for that comment, Patricia. If you haven't seen the video, I eat a lot in it, so that's what she's talking about. And that's going to be all for us this week. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like the video, please subscribe and ring the notification bell so that you don't miss a single episode as we reread the Harry Potter series. And if you liked it a lot, go ahead and share it with all your friends and tell them to subscribe too. And if you guys really love being a part of this community, there are ways that you can support me in the description and on screen right now via my Patreon and my merchandise. Here are some other videos that I think you will enjoy if you liked this one. Your assignment for next week is to read Chapter 15. That's the Quidditch Final, so make sure you read that by next Tuesday, and until then, happy reading! Knox!